Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. It's the only podcast where the hosts get up early in the morning in an Airbnb and switch the mics on. I'm Alun and I'm here with one of the best backpackers in the world, my best friend. It's the ever-expectant Adam.
I'm expecting big things for this episode, mate. We've got some hostel culture coming up. We're going to discuss how things have changed in hostels over the years. We've got an amazing email from a listener. And then at the end, everyone's favourite new item on the show, it's Tales of a Trip.
Yeah, Tales of a Trip. Backpacking stories from the backpacking community. Oh my goodness, can't wait for it. Yeah, man, I was talking to you last night. We're holed up in this Airbnb, sharing a double bed to save money. And we sort of said, you know what, our hostels changing, because we both started traveling around 2015, didn't we? Around that sort of time. 2014 for you, 2016?
2014, December the 16th, 2014.
September 2015 for me.
Basically the same.
I think that was slap bang in the middle of the golden age of traveling. Hear me out, guys.
You have mentioned this a few times, and I mean, of course, we would all love to believe that we travelled at the greatest time to travel.
Yeah.
We maybe caught the tail end of what it is you're about to talk about. Sure, I would have loved to be travelling around Iran in the 70s, but it just wasn't available to me then because I wasn't alive.
I think that it's easy to be like, yeah, I was there when it was the best, you know? Mm-hmm. But I do think the golden age of travel started somewhere around 2010.
Okay.
And ended with the pandemic.
Right.
The reason I think
just all travel ended with the pandemic. So
exactly. And then when it kind of convened and everyone's like, oh, we can travel again, it wasn't quite the same. It's still beautiful, still the most amazing thing in my life. I love it.
As if travel's listening in.
Travel, please. I still adore you. And people should definitely travel now, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that basically what happened was in 2010, it was the first sort of decade, the beginning of that decade was the first time where you had internet technology that made traveling convenient, easy. It was easy to research. It was easy to book hostels. Mm-hmm. It was easy to find out information where you were going.
Yeah.
But it was still not the most popular thing.
Sure.
It still required a lot of panache to go like, I'm going to be a long-term traveller. Almost everyone doing long-term travel had some kind of mental illness. I know, because I was one of them. It was like in 2015, you'd get people traveling kind of for 6 months, all that stuff. But the people you met who were like, I'm going for a year, you were like, oh, fucking me too. What's wrong with you? Oh, yeah, anxiety and depression. Oh, yeah, I'm running away from something. Oh, perfect. Nowadays, that's just not the same because of increased accessibility.
Yeah, you definitely find a different type of backpacker, I think. And it's easy for us to say that. It'd be really interesting. Send your emails in, send your messages in, because we would like to get your thoughts on this. But I feel like over the 10, 11 years that I've been traveling and living in hostels, there's definitely a different type of backpacker now. Not necessarily bad. You know, we can't choose which era we're born in or anything like that. But I also think that when we started out, you had to proactively go and search maybe a bus or something in terms of the infrastructure and logistics. Whereas now, you're absolutely peppered at every single opportunity by travel companies or local tour companies. And they're all offering a similar experience. When we were back when we were traveling, I would agree. I would say that there were lots of people that were older than me, obviously, because I was younger. But yeah, nowadays, technology, the way that it's changed things, certainly in hostels, when you're signing into hostels, there's 2 hostels I want to talk about. One of them's in Auckland, not going to mention it because I know the guys there, they're great friends. And the other one's in Seoul. In Auckland, I arrived at the reception, which closes at 5 p.m. for a reception on a hostel. It's ridiculously early. I hated it. I arrived there before 5 and wanted to check in, but I was immediately shown some little kiosk, some little robot-type screen thing where you've got to plug in all your details and all that sort of stuff. And the person behind the counter said, we are trying to train that machine. There's been some new software uploaded and we just want to test it out. So I can't check you in at the desk. Can you just check in with that machine? And I was like, oh my God. 10 minutes later, the thing didn't work and I was back to square one having to check in with a human. Now, I wouldn't necessarily mind that. I understand there's a changing times, but if you go to Seoul, Korea, there's a place called something Cube or something like that. And the check-in process is so impersonal that it ends up creating these metaphoric barriers within the hostel.
It lacks a personal touch.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even meet a human even if you wanted to. And that is a big issue for me because one of the reasons we stay in hostels is to meet other people. It is to have that lovely backpacking communal atmosphere. But you get sent an email with a check-in code And then you go through the door, you have one check-in code for the door, then you have another check-in code for your locker. And even though there's like a big communal space where everyone has breakfast, no one talks to each other because of these what will become literal barriers between the dorms and the check-in process. And they just try and keep everyone as far away as they can from each other. And I think that is a negative.
Well, let's dissect that a little bit further, because what you're talking about, that sort of ease of accessibility, get in, get on your laptop, don't talk to anyone, that is symptomatic of this era we're living in now, which is the rise of the digital nomad.
Yeah.
Preface that by saying, I love the fact that we're now living post-pandemic in a world where people don't feel that they have to be constrained to the office. They can get their laptops. They can go to hostels.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's great. I would rather we lived in that world. But it has to be said, it changes hostel culture. We're now in this world where pre-pandemic, you had to be like crazy to just go, I'm not going to get a job, I'm going to travel, I'm going to be nomadic. Now, in the pandemic, everyone was like, oh God, is this the future? We can't handle this. We've got to leave. Everyone's sort of like in a mass exodus, it feels like. Okay, now's the time to seize this opportunity, seize my life. I'm going to go traveling. And so you're kind of like the old school travelers who are all like, hey, fuck the government. They're all sort of like, I mean, we're crowded by these new wave travelers, these digital nomads. That's not necessarily in itself a bad thing, but it does create a very different situation in hostels when people's primary directive is to work, to check in easily, not to like be social, not to experience a place so much as just live and work out of a hostel.
Yeah, I wonder as well, maybe what's compounding the issue is that because everywhere else has become so expensive, now the people that maybe were staying in private accommodation or hotels, they can't afford that. So the next step down is, of course, staying in a hostel.
Yeah.
So now you're actually seeing people that probably have a higher economy than they would have done, whereas before, hostels were just for us cheapos.
Yeah, totally. And then hostels react, don't they? Because hostels get all these new clientele of richer people
who are working
money.
Absolutely.
So then it's like the hostel starts selling the experience of, come here, it's ever so social, becomes the same price as the Airbnb. Travelers like me and you are forced out of the hostels because it's too pricey now and go to Airbnb. It's a cyclical cycle. I think here on Anthropology, let's just encourage good hostel etiquette. If you're staying in a hostel, I think to some extent you have an obligation to do your work, finish your work, but do engage in the social culture. It's really important to smile at people, to like make conversation. You take your work, you do it, but I think social aspects are important.
Yeah, it's not about being gatekeepers or anything like that. I mean, can you imagine if we exist in a time in the future where in order to go to a certain country or a certain hostel, you will have had to prove that you've been to so many other countries before or some crazy dystopian future like that. I do think that there are some things that are happening in hostels nowadays that maybe weren't 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, and talk to me about that.
It's positive because it involves food.
Okay.
But now we are seeing some pretty exceptional cooking in hostel kitchens nowadays. I mean, I've been living in hostels probably for the last 15 months on or off. I'm trying to find somewhere to live that's a little bit more permanent with a little bit less, with a little bit more privacy, definitely. Hopefully where the cooking's also good, but it'll be done by me, so who knows. But I'm seeing some meals that are being whipped up in these hostels, and I'm like chiming in going, oh, if you have any leftovers, or if you want me to join you for that.
Back in 2015, it was a fried egg. If you're lucky, maybe put some bread in the toaster.
Yeah, there'll be some paprika that was left on the free stuff shelf.
What's the craziest thing you've seen rustled up? And by which nationality?
Well, actually, the craziest thing, Kian, if you're listening, mate, big shout out to you. He was on the carnivore diet in a hostel. So can you imagine this? I know you know a lot about diet and nutrition, all these different, I'm not going to call it a fad, but he was on the carnivore diet whilst we were staying together in Auckland, and he was on about 750 grams of meat per meal.
Wow.
And I tell you what, going into the kitchen at 9 o'clock in the morning and he's frying up 2 fat steaks with a couple of eggs, that's probably the craziest thing because it completely consumes everyone in there, which was pretty cool. But you're seeing like elaborate meals where you've got usually French people, actually, they're quite sociable. I've seen some Sunday night dinners recently where they're doing like a roast chicken, someone's on the potatoes, they're, doing the vegetables and there's a sauce on its way. And
Michelin star hostel.
It's very collaborative. And I really love that. And I think that has improved because back when we were traveling at the beginning, I would say there was a heavy proportion of those sodium-loaded instant noodles that are no good for anyone. If you wouldn't feed them to your worst enemy, why are you eating them?
The backpacker diet. Yeah, I think backpackers had a reputation back then as being like slightly unshowered, slightly malnourished, sort of like urchins, you know? We were nomads, we were vagabonds. Nowadays, the backpacker's image is slightly changing, you know? You might see a backpacker in a Supreme shirt who's just had a beautiful steak and chips made on a hostel pan, and that's fine.
I'll tell you one more thing I have seen more of. We will talk about food, but Birkenstocks seem to be like the backpacker choice of footwear now. So, I mean, the average spend for a backpacker now is much more than what it was when we were young. Definitely. I mean, now you get a backpacker wearing a bag that probably costs more than the flight, which it maybe is normal, but, you know, 300-400 quid for a bag. And they're dressed to the nines in all the latest Arc'teryx gear. Chuck as a sponsor if you're listening, and some Birkenstocks. But just going back to food very briefly, there is a bit of a hot take coming, and it was said to me in a hostel in Auckland, actually, one of the ones I mentioned earlier. Now, this is quite funny, and it'd be interesting to see whether this observation is something that you've seen. Even though French people are known for their food, even though they have an inherent understanding of food and drink pairings and their cuisine, they seem to just be naturally very good cooks, bon vivant, the people that love, they're good livers, right? They often will be cooking the shittest food.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I've seen it. I mean, this is one of those things that people just drop into a conversation. You go, oh my God, you're so right. And it's so funny. This guy said to me, have you ever noticed that French people, more often than not, when they're wrestling up something for dinner, it will just be pasta and tomato ketchup?
Wow.
And there's probably French people listening to this now going, we're not like that. I'm sorry. I've seen enough of it.
Pasta and tomato ketchup. I've never seen that myself.
I mean,
it's interesting.
Just pasta and red sauce. And this was happening at the table to me, you know, a couple of weeks ago or whatever, when I was last in Auckland. And I made a joke because I feel like I'm somewhat in the French community when I'm speaking French with a larger group. I said to them, do you not like food? And it didn't go down that well. There was a couple of sniggers. But I just thought, pasta and ketchup. Like, seriously, enjoy yourself. Come on.
Live a little.
But we're not at that, surely we're not at that stage now where I feel like there's almost this, once you label yourself a backpacker or you are backpacking as a, you know, vocation or whatever, you then end up living like one, even though you don't have to. You don't have to eat those instant noodles, guys.
Yeah.
You can afford something better. I'd rather you ate less, but better, than 3 times a day eat those instant noodles that are absolutely no good for anyone.
It's a hell of a hot take. First and foremost, Adam, we're a backpacking community show. We love to hear from our listeners. If you go to our website, tripologypodcast.com, we've got a contact form. In the Hostel Common Room, people can ask us questions like 2 elder statesmen of travel. Oh my goodness, what do I do? How do I get around? What backpack should I buy? That sort of thing. We've had a listener email us. It's the Hostel Common Room.
Hostel Common Room. How many countries you been to, mate? We've got an amazing email this week, mate. It's from the lovely Michael from New Zealand, funnily enough. Big shout out. Hi, Adam and Alun. I've been pondering a bit of a travel dilemma and would love to get your take on it as seasoned backpackers from the golden age. Reflecting, I realised that many of my favourite travel experiences came from the completely unexpected, not just in terms of meeting people on the road, but also the classic sightseeing moments. While visiting my partner's family in Osaka, I took a day trip to Nara. I was having a great time watching the deer and sampling some local treats. But while wandering around, I stumbled across a massive temple, Todaji. I was blown away by its size, and even more so when I stepped inside and saw the enormous Buddha. It was one of those unreal serendipitous moments that left a huge impression on me, even though it might not be as famous as Kinkaku-ji, the Golden Pavilion, I've been there, and Kiyomizu-dera. It was far more memorable because I hadn't expected it. Another example would be ordering the chef's recommendation at a random street stall. Those meals often blow me away more than anything I see trending on Instagram. What I'm getting at is that the unexpected often impacts me the most. I imagine that's a common feeling among travellers. My dilemma is sometimes I feel the more I plan, the more I spoil things for myself. I've noticed that watching too many YouTube videos for doing deep research can make certain places feel a little overexposed, like the sense of discovery is lost before I even arrive. Does all the pre-trip research end up dulling the experience? Cheers, Michael.
Thanks, Michael, for sending a message into the Hostel Common Room. Yeah, I think it does.
Is the short answer.
You can divide travellers on this topic into a couple of different camps.
Yeah.
You've got the serial planners, people who structure their time very, very rigidly.
Yeah.
And then you've got the people who aren't German. And then you've got people who just go with the flow and just travel as they like. And I personally fall into the latter camp. I'm really not good at planning.
No, you don't plan a lot. Do you feel like I plan too much?
Not too much, but you, of the two of us, definitely plan more.
Yeah.
And a little tip for you, if you are someone who doesn't particularly like to plan, you like to be like Michael, you appreciate the best things are the unexpected things, you don't like to Google image things before you go, oh, what do the pyramids look like? Oh, that's what they look like. If you want to avoid that sort of disappointment, find yourself a friend who loves to plan, and then, like a little parasite, like a tick or a leech or something like that, just go along with their adventures. You'll always be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably twofold for me. So the first thing is if you set expectations, I think expectations govern happiness. And if you set them really high and you already have a preconceived idea in your head, or you have some sort of image in your head of what an experience or visiting a place is going to be like, you're setting yourself up for failure. I really believe that, because often you imagine things, not just in the past, but also in the future, much better than they will be.
Yeah.
I also think that what compounds the issue and probably makes things even worse is that often the best things that happen when we travel are the things that are unplanned. They're the things that aren't tangible. It's the little interactions with people. It's the, seeing a wild animal or something like that. I mean, you just can't pay for that stuff.
Totally.
So, I would totally agree. One of the things that springs to mind is the most underwhelming landmark I've seen, this iconic Sydney Opera House. I remember,
okay, interesting. You didn't like it?
It's not that I didn't like it, but I think I'd just seen it hundreds, if not thousands of times growing up.
The picture became more iconic than the actual thing.
Yeah, and when I arrived, it's absolutely dwarfed by the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which I think is extraordinary. I love a good bridge. I really do like bridges. So the fact that the Sydney Opera House is almost the star of the show, and people talk about Sydney Harbour Bridge, but I think it's so much more impressive than the Opera House is, that I was just left feeling a little bit flat. Once I'd seen it, I thought, oh, that's a shame.
You raise a very astute point, this idea that happiness is when expectation meets reality, and this weird feeling we get when those two things don't quite pair up. And I think that because we're living in a digital age, digital nomads coming into hostels, I think that means that we're exposed all the time to the best images of the best things to do.
Yeah.
Rainbow Mountain's an example people use a lot. And now I think Rainbow Mountain is really, really cool in person.
Yeah.
It's like a formation, it's a mountain in Peru where all the sand that adorns the mountain is different colours. But people have edited pictures of Rainbow Mountain to such high heaven that the actual living thing can't possibly add up.
Sure.
In terms of its like colour display, it can't possibly be anything akin to the pictures you see before you go there. There's tour people all around Cusco saying, oh, come to Rainbow Mountain, and they're showing pictures on the side of their stalls of this effervescently red, pink, green mountain where the saturation's been boosted right up.
Sure, yeah.
So it's just not that.
Yeah.
It's an actual mountain that has colours that exist on planet Earth.
Yeah.
So you're best off if you didn't see those pictures. The first people that ever walked in those deserts and saw those mountains would have been like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
But then I've met a lot of travellers who went like, oh, it's actually something that looks like it could exist in nature.
Yeah, it doesn't look anywhere near as distorted or warped, or the saturation's been turned up.
Totally. You're best off just not looking.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Also, the time that you visit places, I mean, he's mentioned in the email Kiyomizu-dera, where I've been there, and I don't know if you remember, that's in Kyoto. It's a lovely, lovely temple. I went there at like 5 or 6 a.m. and there was no one there. Now, if you search on the internet, best temples to visit or whatever in Kyoto, it will always show up. But the problem is, a lot of the pictures you see have been taken by influencers or other people that have been there, travel blogs and stuff, and they probably go there at a similar time so that they can get a shot with no one else in it.
Yeah.
If you go there thinking, oh my God, it looks so tranquil, it looks so peaceful, I can't wait until I walk around and I appreciate the way that the gravel's been, I don't know, bloody swept or whatever in a certain direction.
They love doing that in temples, sweeping the gravel.
But you show up sort of 9 a.m. with the other 2,000 tourists, it doesn't matter how beautiful the architecture is or the history of the place, it's objectively shit.
Michael, I think the balance to strike is probably you've got to do a little bit of planning. You don't want to be completely out on a limb, especially if you're new to backpacking and stuff like that. You pretty much want to have an idea of what you want to do.
Yeah.
But just don't go too rigid. Rigidity is the enemy of spontaneity. And spontaneous traveling is the most fun kind of traveling, where you're open and free to like meet a stranger in a hostel and be like, oh, you're cool, let's travel together, let's do something together. Oh, you're interested in food? Amazing, let's go to the place you want to eat. I think that's really, really important, to have your focus and your plans loose enough to allow those moments of wonderment. Because why do we travel if not for the pursuit of wonderment?
Yeah, and the food thing as well kind of feeds into this, because if you go somewhere like a 2 Michelin star restaurant, for example, this is the analogy I'm going to use, if you're paying 200, 300 euros a pop, it better be the best meal of your life.
Yeah.
Anything less than that, and you're thinking this isn't value for money. If you go to a little street food stall, as Michael's mentioned, and you pay like 50p or £1 for something, and it blows you away, you think, oh my God, this is incredible value for money. It's about the expectations.
Totally. Thanks for your email, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. Love to hear from you.
And here we are, fast approaching one of our favourite sections of the show. If you go to travelologypodcast.com/tales of a trip, there's a section there where you can click a little button and immediately record 3 minutes of your greatest travel story. We put the call out to all backpackers. It can be a beautiful memory, a crazy adventure. We just want to hear the best travel stories. We play them on the podcast every week. Let's hear this week's Tales of a Trip.
My name's Rebecca. I'm from Australia, and I wanted to share a story about a week I spent in a monastic community in France. So I stayed in a place called Taizé. Taizé is known for always having an onus on welcoming younger people into their community for about a week at a time for meditation, contemplation, prayer, and building community with one another. As a person of faith, this was a really lovely and beneficial time, and I'm forever grateful for the kinds of friendships I made with people from different languages, different cultures, different faith backgrounds, and it was super special. One of the expectations of spending time in this community, however, was contributing through some labour or through some work. So for most people, this might have been something like cleaning the toilets for an hour a day, or doing some other kind of work around the community to assist. For me, when I arrived, I put my hand up for assisting with dinner duty. So just, kitchen prep. What I didn't expect from my experience in a monastic society was that in putting my hand up to work on dinner preparations was that I would be stepping into France's second biggest industrial kitchen with capacity to feed to up to 3,000 people. Wow. Luckily for me, however, I never had to cook for 3,000 people, only for up to about, 500 people per night. Never in my life have I seen pots and pans the size of which you could probably fit a whole couple humans in there, like something real grim fairy tale-esque, like Hansel and Gretel. They were so big, and it was just insane amounts of food that we had to start pumping out of that kitchen. Even the most basic tomato, pasta with red sauce became a huge effort to feed everybody out there waiting for a bowl of food for you every night. And I remember we'd sit there with these massive vats of boiling water with one person pouring in the instant mashed potato and the other one with a witch's stick size whisk, making sure that everything would actually turn into food for the people out there that night. And then I'd finish my dinner duties and my friends would say, oh, it's mashed potato night again. I didn't like the mashed potato that much. And I'd look them in the eye and I'd say, I mixed that mash. If you don't eat it, I swear, we'll never be friends again.
Thank you so much for sending that in, Rebecca. I loved that. I loved it because it was a kind of story that we've not had yet on Tales of a Trip.
Mm-hmm.
Had a different pace, didn't it? And that's the beautiful thing about someone's greatest travel story. It can be something crazy and melancholic and wild, or it can be something like the effervescent nature of that story, the beautiful fizz behind it, is that she was working, she was doing something that was focused on friendship, connection, spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And that memory for Rebecca of mixing that mashed potato, of creating that thing, is visceral. It's a travel experience. It's something that affected her, and it's stored as this like, oh, remember when I was doing that crazy thing that was outside of my regular life. I was making mashed potato in a kitchen that's equipped to feed 3,000 people. That is the kind of experience that most people just don't get. It's beautiful in its simplicity.
Yeah, an industrial kitchen in France? I've never heard such a thing.
Yeah.
But no, that speaks to us because we're experientialists.
Yes.
And I would absolutely love, especially based off Rebecca's story there, to have been able to have that experience as well. I can't even imagine the size of those pots. I mean, the capacity to feed 3,000 people.
Yeah, can you imagine the noise and the din that's going on, that hum of people working, people creating? I think that's so beautiful. And the theme of this show is French people and red sauce and pasta, isn't it?
That's red sauce, yeah.
That's crazy.
It's funny. Again, expectations, because Rebecca went into that experience not really knowing. She probably thought, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth here, Rebecca, but you might have thought, what can I do? What do I have the ability to do? Well, a bit of cooking, bit of cleaning, that'd be fine in the kitchen, just a kitchen hand.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, you end up feeding 500 people. You'd just be blown away by something like that. I've never done anything like that. And the cooking actually is a big part of travel, isn't it? I don't just mean in a hostel. I mean, lots of people do cooking courses when they go to Southeast Asia, learning about the cuisine. We saw some people in India doing it as well. So those sorts of experiences, I think, are not just what makes travel, but also what sets you apart from other people.
Yes.
We spoke recently about competitive travel. I know I was guilty when I was young of wanting to be able to tell stories that other people couldn't.
Yeah.
And I think that absolutely fits this category.
One of the worst things you can do when you're traveling, one of the most awful wastes of time, are people who go traveling and they spend a year just seeing amazing things.
Yeah.
It is a waste of time if you just do that, because as a traveller, your opportunity is to accumulate new experiences and skills that would be impossible to get at your home country. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's firmly my belief. I think if you've travelled and you've not got any new skills as a result of it, you've not travelled in the best way. So that's why people do cooking courses and things like that. You're in Thailand, why not learn to make a killer pad thai so when you go home you can cook it for your partner and have this really cool thing where no one else knows in your community how to do that. And I think Rebecca's made a really good go of going. She's interested in spirituality. She's a person of faith. She's gone to a monastic community. She's lived out that experience that she's taken from home. I'm a person of faith. Yeah. And she's done something unique that she couldn't do at home with it.
Maybe she's even lost friends over mashed potato.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would have known going into that she would have become so attached to the mash, put her heart and soul into it, willing to lose friends over it as well.
Yeah, ruin your social life over a mushed up potato. Exactly.
I can make some pretty mean mashed potato.
Well, that is an important point, isn't it? To do things that create stories, go out of your way to engage in activities that can teach you new things, give you new perspective.
Yeah. And that's exactly the sort of story that we love to hear on this show. I mean, by all means, guys, please keep sending them in. We love hearing them. Obviously, this is a platform for you guys to share your stories and inspire the people that are listening as well.
Absolutely. We love to hear them. We love it when we get a little notification saying there's a new Tales of a Trip come in. We save them, we listen to them on the show, talk about them with you guys. We're going to head off to the Patreon section now.
We are.
You've got a crazy story, haven't you, about a scam in Queenstown?
Yeah, patreon.com/Tripology podcast. I'm going to tell Alun all about the time I was scammed in Queenstown, which only happened a couple of days ago. I've got the email to read out here. It is honestly unbelievable.
For the rest of you Tripologists, there's a link to all our socials down in the description. But for now, we'll see you all next week.
See you there.
Bye.